So I should start this off with a little bit of a time period, a time period when music really became the focal point of my life, and that was in the mid '90s. I can draw it. I've told the story so many times about when a friend of a friend who came to visit us in Boston from Maine introduced me to Uncle Tupelo, and that was, what do they call it? Watershed moment for me. Um, it just led to so much discovery. Uncle Tupelo led me to the Jayhawks, the Replacements, the Minutemen, um, just the Modern Lovers, Hank Williams, Woody Guthrie, a lot of Lucinda Williams, a lot of my favorite music to this day. That happened in the mid 90s, happened in 94, right after Uncle Tupelo broke up. And I got into, I fell real hard for what nobody likes the label, but it's a sort of fitting label, alt country, Americana, whatever you want to call it. I tried to work for these bands. I do still work in music, and it's largely because of that period. My upbringing of Springsteen, Dylan, the Beatles, certainly hit me. And when I look back at the child or the child in me, my childhood and what sort of musical moment, I remember Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park. I think I've shared this on a video, but I we my mom and stepdad didn't have HBO because we couldn't afford it, and if I remember, we somehow did the shady. I don't know, like we were using somebody else's HBO or something, at least for a brief period, and then it got shut off. And I remember sitting on my mother and stepfather's bedroom floor because they would watch TV downstairs and I would typically watch sports upstairs. And I found my way to Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park, and I was absolutely transfixed. Um, I bought that record recently just because it's so memorable for me. I can see myself sitting there, and the feeling that was, the harmonies were just. And then my mom would play. My mom loved Buddy Holly and CBS 101.5 or something, whatever it was in New York. She played that in the house at all times. Roy Orbison, Everly Brothers were her favorite. But the mid 90s, I remember not being able to comprehend why this alt country scene, or whatever label you want to give it, No Depression, wasn't the biggest thing in the world musically. To me, these bands and songwriters were just as good as, or they just sort of picked up where the greats from the 60s and 70s left off. Dylan, John Prine, Jackson Browne, Neil Young. And it was just, I was just couldn't believe that everybody wasn't into it. And I spread my love of that genre to so many people, and a lot of people picked it up. And most of my close friends to this day, or a large portion of my longest friendships, are tied to that period. My two friends from high school, the only two that I've still talked to, I've talked to a few more, which has been kind of fun. But the two that I talk to most often are both really into this music. My friends in New York are really into it. I've certainly pushed it on folks out here in the now 20 years that I've been living in the Bay Area. But to get to the point, these are 5 records that I think are perfect. I don't know if I'd give them 10.0s or 10.0, 10.0, 10. But top to bottom, these are great records that I've probably shared some of them at some point. Actually, I know I have. But here are 5 that if you don't know the artist or the record, you may want to explore. I'm going to start with the UK artist Peter Bruntnell. And this record is called Normal for Bridgewater. Came out in 1999, was reissued in 2020 on Record Store Day. They only made 500. I got number 26. I had to order this online because it was not available in my local record store on that day. I learned about Peter Bruntnell, I believe it's South by Southwest, maybe in 1999, or no, it's probably earlier. I think he was opening for Sunvolt. I know I've seen him open for Sunvolt, but I'm not sure if that's where I discovered him. And Eric Haywood, who was Sunvolt's pedal steel player, was the pedal steel player for Peter Bruntnell. And the gentleman, come on, give me some liner notes. Nope. Who is now the guitarist for the Pretenders, was the guitarist for Peter Bruntnell. His name's totally escaping me. It's not going to come back to me. But this record is tremendous. Opens with Handful of Stars. You Won't Find Me is one of the greatest breakup songs ever written. NFB, Played Out, Jurassic Parking Lot. If you want to hear Peter Bruntnell, go listen to Jurassic Parking Lot. Just a tremendous, tremendous song. And it closes with Outlaw, May the Sun Always Shine, just a beautiful song. I love the artwork. Everything about this record's great. Peter Bruntnell's still putting out records. I bought one a few years ago, but I've sort of, I haven't really kept that up with him. He has another record that has a song called Here Comes the Swells. I think that's the name of it. Incredible song. Check out Peter Bruntnell. This one may be more people know, but I don't hear this artist talked about ever in the VC community. That's Richard Buckner, who for me is like the Townes Van Zandt of the 90s. Just a tremendous songwriter. This is his first album, Bloomed. I think Devotion and Doubt is his best. Devotion and Doubt is not on vinyl yet. Bloomed this is just very stripped down, barren. Blue and Wonder, Rain Squall, Mud, 6 Years, Daisy Chain. I remember my friend Scott made me a mixtape called Gauzy Dress in the Sun after that song on this record. And I used to listen to that mixtape in my cassette player, my yellow Sony Walkman, when I would take the bus home from work, my first job in Manhattan, when I was still living in New Jersey. But Richard Buckner, I think he stopped making records maybe 8 to 10 years ago, but Bloomed and Devotion and Doubt, just incredible. You guys will probably know both artists, but I don't know, nobody ever talks about this record, which is called One Fast Move or I'm Gone. Jack Kerouac's Big Sur, and this is Jay Farrar and Ben Gibbard. Came out in 2009. I turned my cousin Buck onto this, and he just raves about it now. It just went under the radar, and Farrar was still had a good following back then, and Ben Gibbard, obviously in Death Cab for Cutie and the Postal Service, that is another band. I've been listening to this record for 14 years regularly. California Zephyr, just a tremendous tribute to Jack Kerouac. And it sounds like Big Sur. Like when I go to Big Sur and I put this on, it's if you don't know this record, give it a listen. And there's a couple YouTube clips of them together, which are fantastic. This one, truly, I know my buddy Mark will agree with this. Blue Mountains Dog Days. That's Carrie Hudson, Laurie Sturrett. Her brother John is the bass player for Wilco. I believe his name was Frank Crouch. This originally came out in 95, I think. Produced by Eric Roscoe Amble, who's a friend of mine, who I've spoken about. He also produced the Bottle Rockets. He's produced a ton of great stuff. Just a wonderful musical mind. He was in Steve Earle's band. He was in Joan Jett. In terms of Americana, it does not get much better than this. Blue Mountain Dog Days, Mountain Girl, Let's Ride, Blue Canoe, Soul Sister, Wink, Jimmy Carter, what a great song. Let's Go Runnin'. It was reissued 2016 manufactured via Rhino, which is not a surprise as Rhino puts out excellent stuff consistently. This is a 10. So I'm gonna give one of them a 10. Check this record out, Blue Mountain Dog Days, and then listen to Homegrown and all their stuff. All their stuff's great. So this one's a little tricky. And I wanted to bring this up because I can't believe they're never talked about on the BC community. And this is the band The Gourds from Austin, Texas. Now this, as far as I know, is their only album on vinyl. And this is not the one I wanted to reference. The one I wanted to reference is called Stadium Blitzer. I don't know why I'm still showing this, just so you can see who the band is. The Gourds Stadium Blitzer came out 94, 95, 96, maybe 97. Their first two records, Dem's Good Beeble is the first one, and then Stadium Blitzer, are both unreal. And it shocks me that people don't talk about the Gourds. They were like a present day or a 90s, 2000s version of the band. They had like 6 or 7 great records. They are now, they broke up, I don't know, 10 years ago. Kevin Russell, one of the 2 lead singer-songwriters, is now fronting Shiny Ribs, which I think has a pretty good following. I haven't really kept up with them. I think he's playing the Bay Area soon, so I may go to that. And Jimmy Smith, his co-songwriter and co-frontman, now lives in Montana, I believe, and he goes by under the name Smith McKay. It's a duo in Montana. But I've heard some rumblings that there could be a Gourds reunion. They are one of the greatest live bands I've ever seen. Very much like Marat, which I talk about from that period. And I once booked a show in Philadelphia, which I've talked about. The Gourds and Marat, one of the funnest, one of the most fun, one of the best nights of my life. Booked them at the Tin Angel in Philadelphia. We stayed up till 5 or 6 in the morning, playing Thin Lizzy and drinking beer, and then we watched the Cowboys play the next day. Kevin Russell's a big Cowboys fan. That was a treat. And then they had to drive to Pittsburgh. But what a band. The Gourds. Stadium Blitzer. Check them out. I am going to do more of these. 5 records that you may not know about, because I'm going to sort of jump back into that genre. I'll try to go beyond just the alt country Americana scene. I have a few that I was going to highlight that are outside of that genre, but I stuck with this sound. That is it. It's good to see you all. I don't see anybody. Thanks for subscribing, and I will check back soon. Take care.